Madam Presiding Officer,
Assemblyman James.
I rise on Standing Order 43. I will be delighted if someone can give me the podium. Madam Presiding Officer, when I took this job as Secretary for Infrastructure, I knew if I was to be successful that I had to give up my name. I had to give up my name to the reprobate minds of the PNM, because to survive the politics the PNM oppose you, you have to be able to be of such a strength, to be so strong in heart and in mind, because sometimes it goes beyond your ability to refute lies and half-truths. But as I rise, as always, I want to thank the good people of Scarborough, Mount Grace, for showing the confidence by voting me into office on December 6th in a democratic process, and who by their will and their intent have me in this chamber. I'm absolutely sure, Madam Presiding Officer, why I was elected to serve in this chamber. All of Tobago will remember that we ran a campaign on promising Tobago that we will rebuild a Tobago that can survive on its own, to build an economy, in this case, given the division I have responsibility for, through infrastructural development. And my goal for the people of Tobago is to develop a feeling of independence through infrastructural development. Madam Presiding Officer, from the very first question to the Secretary that the member of Darrell Spring Wim posed to me, it became clear at that time that the member possesses very little knowledge or understanding of the procurement and its processes, and even less of the language and terminology that governs procurement. It is shown here again today. Even the minority councillor seems to have bitten off from that same fruit that they eat. Procurement and procurement legislation and procurement terminology are important if you want to get answers, and certainly answers out of me. They come here today and they repeat a question, and suppose that somehow, because they interpret the question they repeat, that I should give an answer for something that they didn't ask. I've gone at length, Dr. Faith, at length again today to explain basic terminology in procurement. I've gone at length to say you cannot ask about tendering for contractors before the time. You can't ask me to give you a list of 40 contractors that have tendered through some process. I have answered the question as best as I could of those who were invited to tender, and they come to the House again today with half and false information. While I have in the past, Madam Presiding Officer, thought otherwise, I always thought that this was somehow a level of subject bankruptcy, that they were not aware, they are not aware. But today, I find myself thinking that this really is a willful attempt to place lies, direct lies, and misinformation in the public. from Keith Rowley in Trinidad to the members opposite me, they've had this talk about $300 million of the DP budget used up. For the record, again, I've said this before, I've given it in written answers to the minority. We have tendered 4 projects. Off my head, I could be wrong on the figures. One is 54, somebody could count it for me. One is 19, one is 25, and one is 20. How you get 300 out of that? Only the minority councillor knows. But the real reason why we are here. We are here because they are afraid. They on this side of the horseshoe, those in Trinidad, they are afraid. Because roads, Madam Presiding Officer, roads is how this whole thing began. Let me say that the status quo for the past 21 years was that, as the member as my colleague at the end, Lekito Golden Lane, Bethesda Lekito, I keep, she's trying to explain it. In a best case scenario over the last 21 years before we came to office, you had to be lucky to get your road fixed. You had to wind down low enough and wave your red flag high and shout, "Great is the PN Devils," loud enough. Then maybe a week or two, we just came out of Carnival, a week or two before election, you might get your road hustle paved. We came into office paving roads from day one because we understood that election cycle or not, all of us need good roads to drive on. And that is, if we demonstrated to the people of Tobago that delivering roads, new roads, paved roads was a small thing, then we can get into the minds of the public that you could look for bigger things. And that is what we are about. We are showing the people that these things that they've waited decades for, the minority leader up and down on Facebook to get Darrell Spring, Valley Hill, whatever the street is, road fixed for years. They can't fix it. He makes some noise. He makes some more noise. Now he go on to Montpelier and he making noise. All these are not roads that just break up in the last year, you know.
Exactly.
These are roads and potholes, major potholes, that they're for decades that they can't fix. And we have come in year 1 and we are fixing those things. And yet they complain. They complain to the point in public. But you know what they do, Madam Presiding Officer? They write letters when they see they get a little thing fixed in the district. They write letters next week, there was 7 more things done. Because they have confidence in the secretary and confidence in the division. But, Madam Presiding Officer, development in Tobago has always been a problem for the PNM. APT had to sail to England to beg the colonials to fix basic infrastructure in North and East Tobago, while Eric was in Trinidad. And while he was in England, they got a Calypsonian down there to sing Mama Look at Boo Boo Day and call APT ugly to get him out of office, to get Robinson in office. Until Robinson, God bless him, come to his senses.
Yes.
And leave them, although he was heir to the whole PNM throne, leave them to come back to Tobago. Why? Because he finally understood that under the PNM, you could get no development in Tobago. None. During those formative years, during the county council years, 68 to 78, my good friend is too young even to understand. Yes. Less than 1% of the budget They offer Tobago, Robinson fight about it. Those days they just found oil of, they call it Northeast Trinidad. In Tobago. Robinson said, listen, hey, we have oil in Tobago, let me share the budget. Give us some more money. Nothing. Broken Robinson came back to Tobago to push for internal self-government as he understood it at the time. We got to the Seamongal draft. Another Trinidadian, maybe because he was Indian, I don't know, wrote to say what he thought as a senior jurisprudence person, what Tobago should get. Who stood in the way? The father of Trinidad. At every turn, Madam Presiding Officer, at every turn from Eric Williams to Patrick Manning, now to Keith Rowley, the PNM has stood against Tobago and any development in Tobago. Every single turn, the current Prime Minister is on record as saying that what we have in Scarborough now is the duck pond. No, is the duck pond. Unwilling to spend money in Tobago. And when he begins to spend money in Tobago, because when he competed with Robinson, now in the last days, he's trying to compete and leave a legacy in Tobago. He takes the biggest contract ever in Tobago's history, $1.2 billion. After he and Chief Secretary Charles and Secretary for Infrastructure Devines flew to China. After they come back, suddenly CRCC is the only contractor. I hear the mandatory leader say that government-to-government arrangement. Nothing far from nothing like that is truth. This is a project tendered twice by the government in Trinidad through NIDCO, tendered twice, using state money, our money, your money, my money, and I'm not saying corruption, I don't talk that. And on that contract, there is a local content clause. And I'm advised that the company that was the preferred company for the local content satisfaction and local content clause is the good friend of the Prime Minister. Yes. And that company turned around and I don't know the word for it, gave it back, re-tendered it to the Chinese. So now, no local content down there, but nobody makes noise because that's the master said this is the way it is. And therefore, that is the way it is. Truckers calling me every day, James, we need some work on the airport. No noise. They bring trucks up here. That's a good point, I forgot that. They bring trucks up here. Madam Presiding Officer, they bring trucks from Trinidad illegally. Illegally. Destroying the road between Arnos Vale and Crown Point. Without licensing approval. I know Avalanche out there. So what we have is a party and now a government in Trinidad whose political philosophy is to subjugate and assimilate all of Tobago into Trinidad. They want to take our island, our inhabitants, our economic zone, all the resources on the land and the sea. For years, they've been taking our human capital. Half maybe 3/4 now of my family is in Trinidad. They take our oil and our gas, and they want to take the Stolly Park quarry for themselves.
Remember is going.
Repeat, please. Sorry.
Relevance 45-1, Madam Presiding Officer.
Madam Presiding Officer, if the good councillor will wait, I will bring it all home for her. I am making a nexus between PNM Tobago, PNM Trinidad, and PNM Tobago being guided by PNM Trinidad to come up with these frivolous motions. That's the nexus I'm making.
Seeing where the member is going and what that has to do with the motion before us.
Madam President, that is why I have problems. That is why I have problems.
Okay, members.
That's why I have problems in answering questions.
Secretary James, I hope that you would bring together this point
Yes,
as quickly as possible.
Madam President, I'm sorry, maybe some as well I'm in court. They have the colloquial gumption, to use the member's word, to come to tell us how to do what we must do. And we must say in Tobago a resounding no to that. Madam President, the technology seems to be beating me here. I don't know if it's that age thing. Yesterday was my, a few days ago was my birthday, so maybe the little age thing stepping in. Today, Madam Presiding Officer, this fiscal year, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has essentially allocated $3.5 billion to the Ministry of Works today. 3.5. Consequent to the rains of last October, November, they've given them another $350 million to do emergency works. We have to find ways in Tobago to manage the allocation that we have. And they keep talking about bread and butter issues and just concentrate on giving people work and don't develop anything. This is the point I am making, Under instructions from Trinidad, their point is to make sure that nothing gets developed in Tobago. So focus only on bread and butter issues, leave development forever. But they are afraid, because if we are successful in the strategy to open the minds of the Tobagonian to say, hey, roads and drains and bridges are the easiest of things to deliver, then our dream of the city of Scarborough comes to light. And that is what they are afraid of. And I want to promise this House and the people of Tobago and my good friends opposite that the city of Scarborough will come. Progressive and futuristic thinkers make them on that side and their principles in Trinidad uneasy, because they want to keep us in the 1960s. Madam Presiding Officer, our actions fill them with fear because we have started development in the right way. We have not continued the PNM agenda of underdevelopment and undevelopment, and to feed only the 1%. This motion is really a motion, an attack on Tobago, masqueraded as a no confidence motion. It's an attack on our people, on our development, and the prosperity and the future. As the Chief Secretary would say, it's an attack on a mango tree that's bearing nice juicy fruit. But this is not an old war. It's a war that has been waged from Trinidad, sadly prosecuted by a so-called Tobagonian in the office of the Prime Minister in Trinidad, acting through his puppets like those opposite. The sad reality, Madam Presiding Officer, I did not interject when you spoke. I said absolutely nothing. Allow me the same courtesy. We sat and we listened to all the things that you spoke. We sat and we listened. The sad reality, Madam Presiding Officer, is that after almost 22 years of the PNM in Tobago, and 7+ years of the Rowley-led government in Trinidad, we have never received more than the minimum 4.03 budget. What that says to me, and what it should say to all of Tobago, is that we cannot get forward with the PNM. No matter what they sell, no matter what lies they tell, Tobago has not benefited from the PNM in office in Tobago. Tobago has not benefited from the Prime Minister who is born in Tobago, in Trinidad, and we will not benefit. So, Madam Officer, let me turn to the new roads, because it seems as though the road causing the minority leader some heartache and some problems. Let me start off by saying that the whole team and all the people of Tobago are happy and shocked to realize that we could have built a road in 19 days. This is a first in the history of Tobago. Less than 21. We are shocked. What the reality is, the Chief Sec explained it, maybe he didn't go far enough. The Chief Sec explained the process of how projects are approved through the Executive Council, and the fact that the Executive Council gave divisions the authority to go and execute. In this particular case, the Executive Council gave the Division of Infrastructure a wide minute that allowed us to go sole select, if the circumstances permitted. We want to deliver these projects to the best of our ability within certain limitations, and we had the authority to choose the procurement methodology that we would use. And we still decided that we will go selective tendering. We still decided. We could have gone sole select, because the exigency of the situation allowed us to do that. But we chose selective tendering. I heard the minority councillor in their contribution talking about this procurement office and the registration, the project procurement office. I want to say, I'll use my own example, that I, as my estimation, a superior contractor, my own estimation, attempted to have my company registered at the procurement office under this gentleman that is there still, twice, and was refused registration. I can point to at least 5 Tobago contractors that have been refused registration through that office. So respectfully, don't come to this house to tell me that the house that the PNM built is what I must live in. I see all your friends taking pictures of my house. I built my house 2001. I moved into my house 2001 that I built. I turned my keys before you was born. On this business of Tobago contractors, because you know, Madam President Officer, the stench and the hypocrisy beginning to get to me. The Division of Infrastructure, and therefore the Secretary of Infrastructure, is the repository of all the evil that took place in the last 2 years. Remember that. The Division of Infrastructure has the history and the details of what happened. The minority leader, in his public utterance, some would say gutterance, keeps speaking about 7 contractors. It seems as though he's bought a brief from them. Somebody sold him a brief, and he thinks that it is his will and destiny to defend them at all cost. And he's gone so far that he's reading from the letters, apparently sent to him as well. Well, who knows? But I want to focus, Madam Presiding Officer, on 5 of the 7. I call them the big 5. 5 of the 7.
I just want to clarify because I spoke of no 7 contractors except the 3
But
to 6.
Minority Leader, he has to talk to clarify.
Madam President,
Think
can I
he's
reclaim my
getting there.
time? What I would give ladies to be saying, I reclaim my
Okay,
time.
members, okay. I'm guessing he will clarify your.
I am quoting, Madam Presiding Officer, from a letter. It is called a letter of award addressed to one Handel Anthony, Managing Director of, I'm assuming that word is Damare Enterprises Limited, of Battery Street, Boko Point, Boko, Tobago. And it reads, being an active participant in the THA's bonded road resurfacing program.
Member, you have 5 minutes.
The letter goes on to describe, so let me not read. The letter goes on to describe the fact that this contractor somehow has a bonded arrangement with the THA for road resurfacing program. And the program that, and if I'm not mistaken, was responsible for upwards of $200 million of work. This contractor was to provide works on the following. Church Street, Bethel, no scope, no design, design build finance. The information we have, they supplied no design, no schedule, nothing. The award was for $6.2 million for Church Street, 2.4 for Water Hole, Orange Hill, 4.4 for Orchard Road, and it goes on and goes on. $80 million of work by a letter of award signed by Mr. Chadban, tendered, awarded, and signed by Mr. Chadban in one day. Absolutely sure. The gentleman that wrote the letter, Kai Engineering, I want to just spend a little time on this, selected through our process to tender on the Smithfield Road. And he's writing in his letter, he's saying, yes, he was selected, but he couldn't tender because the time was short. Smithfield Road. Again, it's hopeless.
I'm going to ask that the member be allowed his time.
Please, I reclaim my time in minutes, minutes important, right?
Continue, Mr. James.
Two other companies were requested to tender, both submitted tenders. But the great engineering couldn't submit it, and he's complaining bitterly. His company was awarded 12 contracts under the Emergency Works Program, totaling $53.9 million. That is in addition, Madam Presiding Officer, to the famous Dwight York Stadium wall. In addition to this Dwight York Stadium wall, which was divided into 3 phases for a total of over $13 million, that's Sky Engineering. My good friend, Mr. Parks International, we invited him to tender. We had 4 open tenders. He tendered on all 4, if I'm not mistaken. He was successful with 1 tender. He's executing it now. But yet still they say that we blacklist them. He received contracts on these 2 programs, road resurfacing and emergency work program, for above $60 million. Above $60 million. Curiously, Parks International, but he's complaining in public he's cash-strapped. He's cash-strapped, and the minority wants me to invite him to tender because I'm the one who's doing it. I'm the one who's doing it. He wants me to invite him to tender.
Assemblyman James.
I'm
Assemblyman James, your time has since elapsed.
Yes, no provision for addition.
Madam Presiding Officer,
Yes.
I beg to move that the Secretary be given an additional 10 minutes.
Thank you kindly, Chief.
No, you take it up.
Hold on, Mr. James. Members, the question is that 10 minutes of additional speaking time be given to Assemblyman James. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Member, you have 10 minutes of additional speaking time. You may continue your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. That's 10 plus 2 for the interruptions.
You have 10 minutes of additional speaking time.
Parks International. You see, I have to do this, Madam Presiding Officer, because the minority leader came to this house months ago and requested that the Chief Secretary name all the names of people who were employed and their money, their salaries, individual people. Frenchfield River, that must be the longest river in the whole of Tobago. Gabion Basket number 2, phase 2, 4.8 million. Gabion Basket wall number 1, phase 3, 4.9 million. Gabion Basket number 1, phase 4, 2.8 million. Gabion Basket wall number 1, phase 5, 2.8 million. Gabion Basket number 2, phase 1, 4.7 million. I get dizzy already. Gabion Basket wall number 2, phase 3, 4.7 million. Gabion Basket number 2, phase 4, 2.8 million. A total of $28 million, $24 million on Gabion Basket work, divided into 5 phases and numbers 1 and 2 for each phase, awarded to Parks, no tender. Dane Phillips Plumbing. He was awarded 24 contracts, totaling $76.5 million in addition to others. Plumbing contractor doing civil works and construction works. Warner Sanitation. I'm leaving out the construction because you know that what let us do. Leave out the construction from the name. So I'm leaving out the construction just for you. Warner Sanitation. The chief have mentioned it. $68 million to develop brownfield lands in Cove and Sherburne to move persons. $68 million. Wow. Before variations of $7 million. To date, the records show that we have paid 85% of that. Can't get the work done. This contract has a clause where they're being paid 11% interest for not financing the project. On top of that, 11% interest. While the state is paying interim payments. If you ever know I better leave and go back and be a contractor. Yeah, but you have to do the work, not do the work. They were awarded 36 contracts in the lead up to the 2020-21 elections, totaling $83.3 million.
Open tender?
There's no such thing as open tender. These are bonded contractors. Chadban and Toppin just give them contracts. Yeah, that's what you just do, call names. In here we have coverage. When you go out next time,
Come on, members.
Call my name and say
Members,
that, I'm telling you, when you go out this side next time, call my name. Wait, brother, wait.
Assemblyman James,
Let me leave you.
you have a short
Let me
time.
use my time wisely. On a day in December 2020, they were awarded 12 contracts in one day. Those 12 contracts total $44.7 million. As far as we're able to ascertain, and I'm sure if I go back through the email, some administrator top it. As far as we are able to ascertain now, $128 million in contracts under these programs to Warner Sanitation. This is the cartel. This is the 1% cartel that the PNM has built. And they expect that we would continue the cartel.
Assemblyman James, you have 5 minutes.
As I close, Madam Presiding Officer, I want to put on record that it is contractors of this sort who are the real colluders, if that's the word, in this Tobago that we have, who sat down and accepted contracts having not even tendered, who executed works up to in excess of $600 million in less than 17 months, 11 of which was under the 6-6 tie, where they promised that we weren't going to do anything. $600 million, and despite what they say, $189 million been paid to them already. So, Madam Presiding Officer, this motion of no confidence is a motion intended to rob the people of Tobago of much deserved development. It's a motion intended to transfer onto this team the actions of the PNM. That is what it is. As the audit report comes out, I suppose, to transfer all of that guilt, all of that corruption that they have practiced onto this team. The facts of the matter are that under the division which I am privileged to lead at the behest of the Chief Secretary, that since we have been in office, we have moved 192 steps. We have built a new road in town. Today in Trinidad, not today, but in the last year or so, they're building a road to Tobago. And man, really, they're making noise for a road in Scarborough. They're building a highway to Tobago, using one of your same, your same South contractors that you hate. What would happen when we begin to build that road from Goldsboro to Palatuvere? We have set out, Madam Presiding Officer, and a comprehensive infrastructure development plan for Tobago, and unapologetically, we are not building a PNM house. I thank you.